Hello, welcome to another episode of Star Power TV. I am your host, Andréa Albright. And in speaking about star power, we have an amazing guest joining us today. I cannot wait for you to meet her. We are going to be exploring what does it mean to amp up your energy, get your true, authentic self out there so you can make the greatest impact with your life, your message, and your business. So joining us today on Star Power TV is the amazing Kelli Jaecks. Hi, Kelli. Welcome.
Thank you, Andrea. It's a real pleasure to be here with you today.
Yes, you are fabulous. Anyone can tell from the first time they meet you that you have star power, girl. Way to bring it.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, we're going to learn all about your background, what you're up to. You have an amazing mission to help women with their health through menopause. I'm so excited to get deep into the conversation. But before we do that, what is your definition of star power?
I think star power is when you meet a person whose energy is so available to you, whether you meet them on a street, you meet them at a reception, you meet them on a stage. Star power is a person who takes who they are, they know who they are, and they know who they want to help, and they are able to share that with the world.
Ooh, I love that answer. So how did you discover your star power? Tell us about your journey. Tell us about what you are up to.
Sure. We all have a journey. And I was one of those women in my very early 20s. I got derailed. I never went to college out of high school, even though I was an A student. I had babies in my 20s. I didn't start college till I was 30 years old. And no one in my family had ever gone to college. So I was the first generation. And, it took me 5 years to get a bachelor's degree in dental hygiene because I had 2 kids at home. I ran a daycare in the day and went to school at night because I just was surviving, right? So I think it takes a while to find your star power, but education for me was definitely part of it. I became a dental hygienist. I worked for 10 years. Then I went back and got a master's degree in communication because I wanted to communicate to other people. I wanted to share my expertise and my mission on the stage. So before I wrote my book, I speak at conferences all across the globe. I've spoken in Scotland and Australia and Mexico. And so it's like, I am on a stage a lot, but I had to do the work to get there, right, to the stage. So I still keep my dental hygiene degree active, even though how I help the world is not by doing dental hygiene, but it's actually by sharing knowledge and energy and empowering. I particularly love to empower women to take care of themselves.
Amazing. Wow. Well, I love that you found your star power through education. And let's go deeper into that because I am big about education. My family didn't always have a lot of people in our family who went to school, and my mother was actually the first one to get a college degree. And so very much like you, one person can change the entire trajectory of an entire family lineage. Yes. When one person decides to go forth with their education. And I'm so inspired that you made that decision at 30 years young. Can you tell us more about that? And if a person is watching who's on the fence of, should I invest in an education? Should I go for it? What would you tell them?
Well, I have to say that, particularly for women, it is never, never, never a waste to invest in your education and invest in yourself. And you don't know how that's going to manifest later, what that education will do for you. But I was, stuck in a marriage that was not going to last. And by the time I turned 30, it was like, oh my gosh, I am not meeting any of the goals I wanted to meet in my life. We were very, very financially poor, right? I had my children through the county health system because I had no insurance, and it was great care, but I'm just painting a picture for you. And so I said to myself, someone has to do something in this family. And the person I was with at that time, my husband, that was not his goal. It was not where he was at. And so it was like, okay, I have to. Someone has to do something to lift us out of poverty. And so I'm going to do that. And so I knew I needed to get education. So literally, I was running a state certified daycare in my home because I was home with my 2 children. And then I had, you could have 6. So I had 8 kids a day in my home, planning their meals, planning events, crafts and all that. And then at night, I went to the community college. That's how I started. And I did night school for 2 years. And then it was apparent that for the classes that I needed, I had to start going to college in the day. And so I closed my daycare and I started I went back to waitressing. So literally I would wait tables on the days I didn't have school, right? So like school was 3 days a week. And so I wait tables on the 2 days I wasn't at school and in the weekend to make money. And so it was a juggle. I mean, it wasn't easy by any means. And then when I got accepted into the program at Oregon Health Sciences University up in Portland, Oregon, it was very prestigious and hard to get in. And I got accepted there. And then that was a 2-year continuing of the education to get the bachelor's degree, right? And, I lived an hour away. I had to leave the home at 6:30 in the morning. I got home at 6:30 at night. And it was a sacrifice, but it was so worth it because I knew in my soul and my heart, I was meant to do more and to be more in the world. And that was the vehicle I took to get started to do that.
It's amazing. What an inspirational story. And what I love about meeting people who have star power is it's never just handed to you.
No.
That you're tested, and or how bad do you want this? Do you really want this? And it's a continuous test and a commitment. And like you, I have a degree in biology. I have a background in biology, never knowing that I would become a publisher. But that confidence and that education, what that gave me absolutely set me up for what I share in business today. So I am a huge proponent of education. And we'd love to learn about your book, Kelli. So now you are not only educating and reading for yourself, you're now contributing to the world of literature, and you've got your own book out. Can we hear about that?
Yes. My book is called Martinis in Menopause.
Love the name.
Yeah. Strategies, science, and sips that empower women to beat the hormone groan. And I wrote this book because one of the topics that I teach on at stages all across the globe and in the United States is women's health, right? I teach on women's health, and I teach on hormonal health and how hormones shift and change over our lifetime, and what are the symptoms that come with that. And then, most importantly, what can you do your own self to live a better life, even through all these hormone fluctual changes. So when I went to write my book, I thought, well, what do I want to write about? And really, I love to empower women. So I thought, I'm going to write about menopause. And to be honest, Andrea, not very many people talk about menopause or write about it or even want to say the word, and in my speaking world, people, they're uncomfortable. It's like, oh, don't title it menopause. No one will want to read it. And it's like, no, that's the whole point. I want to break the shame. There's no shame. It's a normal event in a woman's life every single woman's life, whether it comes early or late. So why can't we talk about it? There's no shame. There should be no shame. And so that's one of my big messages. So I wrote Martinis in Menopause, and I make it fun. It's 10 chapters, the 10 top symptoms that most women will go through during their menopausal journey. And of course, there's martini and mocktini recipe in each chapter to go along with the chapter. And, it's just strategies and tips, and what can you do if you suffer hot flashes? What can you do if you're having sexual health changes? What can you do if you're gaining weight? So the book is really practical and fun, and when I was researching, it's really one of the only books on the market not written by a medical doctor. There are menopause books, and they're great, and they're written from the private practitioner, or they're written from an OBGYN. So they're really good, but I'm just a woman, normal woman, went through menopause, writing about it, and the things I learned through that journey and how I can help others. So that is about my book. It was published in spring of 2018, so it's still hot on the market. And then I wrote in 2019, I wrote a companion workbook, because women who would read my book would say, well, we want to journal about this. We want to keep track, like I talk about keeping track of your menstruation, right? So you know where you're at. For example, and we want to keep track. We want to journal. And so I made it really fun. I mean, I have fun activities in the book. It's a journal book, and it's really a companion to go with the book. But the book is standalone, and you can get them one or both on Amazon. And it was an Amazon bestseller in women's health when it was published. So I'm pretty proud of the book, and and the topic I love to talk about.
Amazing. Well, you are speaking my language. I cannot wait to get the mocktails and martini recipes and learn about health. Let's talk about that. So a lot of women and men are very confused about hormones, what they do. It sounds really weird and complex. And it's really fascinating to me that more medical doctors don't have higher levels of understanding about hormones and how they impact our overall health. So could you just give us a quick overview? I know that we could go really deep into this conversation, but why is it important to start learning about your hormones?
Right. Good question. Because all through our reproductive life, when we start, as women, we start our periods. As men, they start to make sperm. And then, for women, we go through the reproductive years. We may or may not have children, but they're called the reproductive years. Why? Because your ovaries are releasing eggs every month, and you're shutting those eggs and having a period. And then our reproductive years go away, and it takes 2 to 10 years for that. And that's the menopausal years, right? So why it's important is because hormones drive so much of our life. They drive our mental well-being. They drive the well-being of our organs. Like, for instance, women and estrogen, which is our main hormone, it protects our brain. Estrogen does. It protects our bones. There's over 300 tissues in the body that have estrogen receptors. So when we don't have estrogens, that's why things happen, like our skin dries out, our eyelids dry out. We don't have estrogen, so our bones become more brittle. We don't have estrogen as we age, and that's just a lot of the symptoms that you see as an aging woman is because of the changes in the hormones. And we see it in men too. It's just not talked about as much. I often joke and say my next book's going to be Manhattans and Manopause, because men go through it too. I mean, why do men, when they get in their 50s in general, have a harder time with weight gain, right? They get the big pot belly. They get heavier, just as women in general tend to get heavier as they age. And that's all because in the men, of course, the testosterone is down and the cortisol is up, which is another hormone that affects equally the genders equally, is cortisol with stress and how that affects. So really our mental and physical health a lot of it revolves around our hormones. So why would we not want to learn about it? The more power you have, you come from biology, Andrea, that, knowledge is power. Knowing science is power, because knowing what's happening in your body. And that's the other thing I try to do in my book. I make the science very accessible. Like this, I talk about hormones in here. I talk about brain neurotransmitters, but I break it all down so it's easy, right? I want everyone to be able to understand the science.
That's wonderful. I also share that passion of keeping it cartoon simple so that you can apply it to your life and to your health. And I think what you're doing is fantastic. It's fascinating, and it's so important because a lot of people just accept that, I've reached a certain age. I'm not supposed to have this kind of energy or health or enthusiasm for life. And if we're talking about star power here, then you're basically saying you're going to be dimming your light and you're not going to have that energy and that gusto to go after your dreams and create the most amazing life possible. And so hormones, what you're teaching, are going to help you not only stay young, but I would say I get better and better with more and more energy when you really understand how to take care of your health. Would you agree, Kelli?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Self-care is like my flagship message. I don't want to leave your listeners without this little caveat is, sure, our hormones diminish as we age, but you are right. That doesn't mean I'm going to go sit in a closet, right? It just means that there are other modalities and other things I need to do for my mental and physical health to keep that energy up and to keep myself strong, right? Just because my estrogens are gone doesn't mean I don't have bone strength, right? Because I do weight-bearing exercise, and I have done weight-bearing exercise since in my 20s, right? So,
yay! I'm applauding you for saying that. I love when women lift weights. And we need to, because as you know, if we don't, over the years, it's easy. They say about 1.5 pounds of our muscle turns to fat each year after the age about 55 if we are not doing strength training. And for me particularly, and for women like me, last year, right now, I've just been through breast cancer. I was diagnosed last November. So at that time, I was on very small doses of bioidentical hormones, and I loved them. I used them for over 10 years during my menopausal journey. But when I was diagnosed with breast cancer, I had to stop immediately. And then now, because of my breast cancer, the type I had, I'm free now, thank you. But because of the type of breast cancer I had, I have to now take anti-estrogens. So I'm going through a whole new hormonal journey now because of the medical diagnosis. So I have to think, okay, what do I know? I don't have hormones on board. I have an anti-estrogen on board, which I have to take to, mitigate the risk of getting cancer again. So therefore, what can I do, right? What do I know? How do I raise the serotonin levels in my brain so I feel good, so my well-being is great, so my energy is good, so my balance in my life is good? What do I already know to do physically to keep my strength and to keep my health? And that's, to me, at the end of the day, people who have star power are not victims, right? I'm not a victim that I got cancer. Cancer is moving through, man. It was one year in my life. And it's like, okay, what am I supposed to learn from this? But you can't be a victim. You have to say, I'm in charge of me. I'm the only person in charge of me. I'm the only one. And at the end of the day, it is my job to take care of me. It's not anybody else's job to take care of my emotional health, for example. It's not anyone else's job to make me happy. It's not anyone else's job to make me physically the best self I can be. It's not about a size. It's not about a weight. It's about your best self in the body you were given genetically, right? It's my responsibility. And that is another part of the star power. When you meet people who have star power,
they are walking in their truth. They are owning who they are, the good, the bad, the ugly. I am not perfect. Ask my husband of 20 years. I am not perfect. And I don't do everything I should do every single day. But I walk in that knowledge that I'm responsible for me.
Wow, you are dropping some gold today, girl. I love this. Amazing, so powerful. And the last thing I want to just say about the hormones is that all of this information needs to be documented, actually getting the blood tests to know how different changes in your lifestyle and diet are impacting your hormones. And
Yes.
It's back to the education, becoming aware of what do these hormones do? How do they impact one another? Having an expert and a guide who can help decipher what your hormones are and what they're doing, and then watching them over time. So I get my blood work done every 3 to 6 months. And what that does is it actually gives me data in science, and I get to track how different changes in my lifestyle, in my diet, my stress levels, it's all going to change, and we need to monitor that. So would you agree, Kelli, that that's an important caveat?
Oh, absolutely. You have to be under the care of someone who understands hormonal health. And sometimes that's not going to be your private practitioner, right? Sometimes that's going to be maybe a nurse practitioner who specializes in women's health. Maybe that's going to be a naturopath. Maybe that's going to be a chiropractor. Maybe that's going to be a holistic health medicine doctor. So that's one big resource, though, I give to women, the North American Menopause Society, NAMS, North American Menopause Society. You can go onto their website, put in your zip code, and then they will tell you the healthcare practitioners in your area that actually work in hormonal health. So anyone, wherever they live, can find a resource that will help them. So I like to give that tip, because some people say, well, I have not the slightest idea of where to talk to anyone about hormonal health. So go to the North American Menopause Society. You don't have to be menopausal, any age, any gender, and put in your zip code. And that will start you on the journey to find a practitioner.
That's amazing. Great advice. Okay, so I want to switch gears here, and I have a section in the TV show where I ask all of my guests a series of questions. And these questions are kind of fun, they're different, probably than you're used to being asked on a regular talk show, TV show, but it's going to allow us to get to know you on a deeper level. So we're just going to go rapid fire questions, and whatever comes to the top of your mind, okay? It's kind of like a game show. You like game shows?
Fun. I'm in.
All right, let's do it. So my first question for you is, Kelli, what is your star power?
My star power is the ability to empower others to believe in themselves, value themselves, and take care of themselves.
Phenomenal.
Yep.
And such an important star power. And just like you've said that star powers are not victims, star powers are people of star power also care for others. It's like the light, the abundance overflows. And so all you want to do is share it with other people. What an amazing star power you have.
Well, and I believe in, I love to give energy and receive energy, right? And so whether I'm right here through the screen, I'm feeling your energy, right? You're feeling my energy. Those listening to us hopefully are feeling the energy. When you're on a stage or you meet someone, I love to give, but I also receive from that, right? So sharing your star power is a beautiful way to walk through the world.
Yes, that is right. Okay, next question. So what book has had the most influence on your life?
Wow. That is a huge question, because I read all the time. And of course, you put me on the spot, so I forget the name. It's by Eat, Pray, Love. Gilbert is the author.
Melissa Gilbert.
And then she wrote another book.
Big Magic.
Big Magic, that's it. Book. I love that book as a creative soul. There's something she talks about in that book about fear, and I use it all the time when I talk to people, is that, fear gets to ride in the back seat. You don't get to get rid of fear. So fear gets a voice. Nah, Kelli, be afraid of this, be afraid of this. Fear gets a voice, but guess what? Fear doesn't get a vote. Fear does not get to vote about how I operate in my life. And I just love that. That Big Magic, thank you for helping me remember. I love that book. I go back to it again and again.
She's a phenomenal writer, one of my favorite writers. And I actually said her name wrong. It's Elizabeth Gilbert, not Melissa Gilbert. That book, Big Magic, I give it to my authors as they're going through the process of creating their book.
Good, yeah.
So many artistic people, they get attached to perfectionism. And I love how she lays it out and says that there's no such thing and you got to find something beyond that. So great one. Sure. I love that book. Okay, Kelli, next question. Who has most positively impacted your life?
I have to say my husband. We met on a blind date. We've been together. This New Year's Eve will be our 20th wedding anniversary. And I say that because his views of life and the way that he walks through life has such a positive impact on me, right? He believes in me. He believes in my dreams. He believes in my goals. He does not have this ego in any way that holds me back. And he is kind of like a Pollyanna, right? That stereotype of always looking at the positive. And I am too, but he is like way out there because he's a conflict avoider. So for him, looking at the positive. And so it has helped me so much through the years, kind of turn the way I'm looking at something, right? Because if something seems to be a challenge or a problem, if you can look at it just a little differently, you often can see the solution. And so I have to say he's my life partner, and we have been through some stuff, ups and downs. But he is my biggest cheerleader, and that allows me to be a big cheerleader for other people. So I'm very fortunate to have a positive person in my inner circle.
Oh, I love that answer. Well, you make sure he sees this interview and he sees the amazing things you've said about him. That's phenomenal. Congratulations on your successful marriage.
Yeah, it's hard. Maintaining a long-term relationship, it's not a cakewalk, but anyway, it's been so worth it.
That's your next book right there, Kelli.
I know I have often thought I should write a book about that as well.
I would love to read it. Okay, next question. What is your favorite subject to talk about?
Sex. That's not altogether untrue. I love to.
Best answer ever, I gotta say.
Right. I have a book. The 10th chapter in my book is about sex, and it's about sexual health and sexual changes. And the reason I kind of say that as jokingly, but I love to talk about it because no one talks about it. And I'm not a sex therapist or, I don't have any degree in that, but just loving yourself, right? Sexually, no one talks about that. And, I talk about that in my book because it doesn't matter if you're partnered or not. It's a basic human, it's like need and desire, just like food and water, right? It's very biological. You'll know that from your studies and your background. And anyway, I like to talk about it because no one talks about it. And said, let's not put a Band-Aid or a duct tape over an area of our lives that greatly affect us, for the positive or the negative, right? So, I talk about self-care, I talk about self-love. So self-care is my biggest bucket, but I love to talk about sexual health because women are really, really wanting information, right? Because there are changes that happen with our vulva and our vaginal walls, et cetera, as we age. There are changes that happen that affect that whole perineum area with the bladder and all that, and no one is talking about that. So while I'm not a medical expert on that, I do have a lot of strategies and tips in the book about, well, how can you have a more fulfilling sexual life, partnered or not?
Beautiful. Thank you so much for your work in that taboo topic. And
right.
Exactly what you're saying is, if you don't talk about it, now there's all this confusion and there's myth and superstition.
Yes.
And it goes into this underground back alley kind of, so bringing it into the light, bringing it into
right.
the conversation about biology and health, and how every woman and man deserves to feel healthy and empowered in their sexuality.
Right.
Well, we need to do an entire TV show just on that someday, Kelli.
Yeah, that'd be fun. We could.
It would be super fun.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So next question. What was your very first job?
My first job was picking strawberries. I lived in a rural town outside of the Seattle area in Washington. And I was 12 years old. And at 12 years old, back then, the strawberry fields would hire kids to pick. And so I was just talking about this with my mom the other day. That's so funny. We would go to a certain corner in the town and a big bus would pick us up, drive us out to the strawberry fields. We'd pick all day, have lunch out there. They would weigh our strawberries and we got paid for how many pounds we picked. And so I did that for 2 years when I was 12 and 13 years old. It was my first job, and I learned the value of hard work.
Amazing. I would never have guessed that one. You're so diverse and fascinating.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yes. Okay, great question. Now, next one. What are your 3 greatest gifts that you share with the world?
The 3 greatest gifts I share with the world. One is I share positive energy. I try to come across as a positive individual, and I share positivity with others. The next I share with the world is I am a great cheerleader, meaning if I know you, you're in my tribe, you're in my circle, you're my friend, I'm going to root for you, I'm going to support you, I'm going to hold you up. And let me see, the third thing I share with the world, I think a third gift I give to the world is knowledge about themselves in a fun way. Because all of my presentations, have something to do with mental health or physical health or inflammation, right? And so one of the gifts I give is I'm going to teach you about yourself so you can make better choices in a fun way.
Fantastic. I love these answers. Okay, you are a pro. All right, next question. This is a fun one. If you could have any actress play you in a movie, who would it be?
Christina Applegate.
Yes, I was so gonna say that for you.
Yeah, she's my doppelganger. Like everyone says, oh my gosh, at certain angles, a certain light, I look like her if I put my hair up in a certain way. Everyone says she should play you. And I love that because she's 10 years younger than me in real life. And I'm like, yeah, get her on board. I love it.
I love it. I was seriously in my head. I'm like, if she doesn't guess Christina Applegate, I've got to throw it out there. She was rock.
Yeah, it's like I've been told so many times. So I'm taking that as a compliment. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, great. Next question. What do you want your legacy to be?
Kelli taught me and encouraged me and empowered me to take care of myself so I can better serve the world.
Oh.
I want people to remember me as the person who helped them realize the value they have, because there's no one else on the planet like them, and that they are worth taking care of. It's worth taking care of yourself because you're the only one and you have a lot to give.
Wow. I felt your whole heart and being come through that. It was so beautiful. Okay, next question. What subject were you best at in school?
Literature and reading and writing with literature.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And we haven't even touched on the communication, but I think this is a great point. Do you believe that to truly be a powerful star, that communication is important to get your ideas across?
I absolutely do. And I have been in so many of them in my life, lots of leadership positions on boards and, presidents and all that. And what I like to say is you have to know how to communicate, but you have to be yourself. I am me. And sometimes people say, oh, I can't be a leader, or I can't have star power because I'm not like you. I'm not an extrovert, right? I don't look like you. I don't act like you. And to me, that's a myth. I mean, I'm sure you see it, Andrea, in your work. It's like all kinds of people have star power. And so it's about how do you communicate then with the skills? What skills do you need? And how you communicate? Communication is huge. There's how we communicate when we're writing an email, right? How we communicate like you and I are talking right now, how you communicate when you're leading a team. It all is communication. And having both that interpersonal ability to communicate, and then depending on if you have to, negotiate or get someone to see something a different way, all of that is communication. And it's such a huge part of leadership and of star power.
Excellent. That was wonderful. I wanted to make sure we touched on that because it's obvious that communication is one of your greatest gifts.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, next question. So what's the best place you've ever traveled?
I love to travel. I love to scuba dive. So the best place, one of the most incredible dive sites was down in the Caribbean in St. Lucia. And that was one of the coolest places I've traveled to because I love the water. I love the diving. I love the island. And it was some of the most spectacular scuba diving I've ever done. And, I've been diving in Fiji, the other parts of the world, but I really love the Caribbean for diving. And St. Lucia, I saw just the incredible fish, schools of fish, and the largest crab I had ever seen. It's huge as a boulder. I'm not even kidding you. Underwater. It was just amazing. So for me, the coolest places I've been have to do with the experiences I have when I'm there. So I have to say St. Lucia was one of my top ones.
Sounds like paradise. I love the water in the Caribbean. It's the best.
Yeah.
Okay, next question. I know that you read a lot and you love books like me. I love books. I've never met a book I don't like. But out of all the books you've ever read, who is your favorite author?
And wouldn't you know it, it flew right out of my mind. And I can see her shelf in my library.
You have a whole shelf for her.
Yeah, but it's gone. But I'll tell you my second favorite author.
Okay, great. We'll take your second favorite.
Yeah, Chris Bohjalian. I don't know how you say his name, but B-O-H, there's an H in there, there's a J in there. He writes incredible books. His big one was called The Midwives. And he writes, I just finished one called The Lotus Flower, and it was about this, of course, a murder mystery in Vietnam and New York labs and science and how they figured it out. Oh my gosh. I cannot believe I cannot think of her. It's a woman's name. Okay, I have to pass. Can't remember, but I love Bohjalian's work too. It's great.
Amazing. Well, we're putting you on the spot here, so you get one pass, and that's it. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. Well, whenever you read so much, it also can kind of all blur together, but okay, yeah. That's fantastic. Now, if you're being interviewed by Oprah, what are you talking about?
I'm talking about the importance, particularly for women, to put themselves first in their lives. Because we are enculturated to put ourselves last. Everyone else eats before mama. You know, the dishes are done, the work is done, the laundry is done, and then the poor woman sits down and is, you know, basically done at the end of the day, and she's not done one thing to take care of herself. So Oprah and I are talking about the importance of putting yourself first, self-care first. I call it a mindset of me first, because self-care is not selfish. And we got to flip that script, that self-care is service. Because when you're taking care of yourselves, you're operating at the top of yourself, the top of your game at work or at home. And so, you know, I get passionate about it. If you're taking care of yourself, you're a better spouse, you're a better mom, you're a better daughter, son, you're a better coworker, you're a better employer, you're a better employee if you are taking care of yourself. So me first, self-care is not selfish. That's what we're talking about.
Phenomenal. I love what you said. Self-care is service. Boom.
Boom.
That's excellent. Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question. Imagine you have $1 million to give away. Who do you give it to?
$1 million to give away? Is it only one person or one entity?
It could be an organization, it could be a person, it could be a government, anybody or anything.
My answer today, if I had $1 million, I would give it to art associations, particularly theater. And there's so much need that I don't have just one, but that's where the bucket of money would go. I believe in the power of theater. I believe in the power, just like books, to take us out of our normal everyday self. I believe in the power of the emotional impact of a good play or a good musical that helps us to open our minds and see the world in a different way. It helps us to become better citizens, the arts. And so for me, funding the arts is super, super important, not only just to me personally because I love them, but because of what I believe they add to the human experience.
Wow. Kelli, you and I have so much in common. I've actually never even mentioned this before, but I was in theater all through childhood and into high school, and I was the best actress of my high school graduating class.
Ah,
yes.
Yeah, we have it in common then.
Exactly. I'm a thespian at heart, and the power of the communication, performance, what you build in confidence, and also the creativity and the imagination of playing characters and expressing different aspects of life. It gives you compassion and empathy. Yeah. So I am all for that. I love that.
That is so cool. And I use it often too when I'm talking about leadership in leadership training, because what you learn on the stage really applies to leadership in your life, right? Trusting your team, for example, doing your work. So when you show up, you're ready, right? creating something together that is meaningful. Yeah, it's amazing to be involved and to and what it does for the world. I remembered the name of the author.
Oh, okay. Tell us.
Jodi Picoult. That's Picoult. Miss Picoult. I forgot your name. Jodi Picoult. She's great. I have like 12, 15 of her novels right on my desk. And she writes about usually ethical and moral dilemmas and often involving children, right? Like she wrote My Sister's Keeper about twins, and it's always usually there's children involved, and it's an ethical and moral dilemma, and they're fascinating and fun to read.
Amazing. I love your passion. So great. We could geek out forever on any one of these one questions.
I know.
I'm purposely cutting myself off. I will just say one last thing about, I think that the world would be different if everyone learned improv. Improv is what I believe the key to my positivity and openness, because in improv, you are trained to say yes to everything. You have to say yes, because the minute you say no, it stops the improv. So I'll just put that little nugget out there. We're going to have to go deeper in our next interview.
That's great. And improv, to be honest with you, that's scary for me as a thespian, as an actress, because I like the script. Like I like to learn the script and then, interpret it and put it. So improv is like, okay, yes, and, right?
Yes,
and.
Look, you're doing improv right now. We're doing it right now.
We are.
We're doing
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, amazing. Right. Last question. What's your secret indulgence?
I do love to have an evening at home alone, no one at home. And my secret indulgence is a bottle of red wine and a bucket of popcorn full of cheese and brewer's yeast and salt and fat. And that is my secret indulgence. A whole night in front of Netflix with my bucket of popcorn and my bottle of red wine. Just
Amazing. For me. Yes. You have to have those nights. You have to have those to just completely, because when you're giving so much and you're empowering so many other people, if you're only putting the energy one way, then you get drained, you get overwhelmed, you stop caring and being passionate. And so that deep, deep cocoon self-care, self-indulgence is absolutely part of the process.
For sure. You have to fill your tank back up. And if that's what it does, what it does for you, whatever you need once in a while. The life of moderation, right? It's not perfection, like you said earlier. It's moderation. So usually I eat very well, right? And I'm very healthy. But once in a while, I got to have a cheat night.
I hear you, girl. My thing is Cosmos and champagne. I'm like, every couple weeks, I'm like, give me a good Cosmo or two and a nice glass of rosé champagne. So that's why I'm so into your message and your book and everything you're saying. It's like we're twin stars from different
love it. Yeah. Love it.
Well, Kelli, you rocked those questions. Congratulations. You got through it.
Yeah, thank you. That was fun, actually. It's fun to be on your toes, like, oh.
Yeah. Well, our time today is wrapping up. I could go on and on and on with you. I love your commitment to helping people discover self-care, health, at any stage of their life, under any age, any situation, any circumstance. I admire your commitment to self-education and for self-empowerment, because you are living proof that you can create your star power and live the life that you choose whenever you commit to it.
Thank you. Thank you. It's really been a pleasure to be with you. And I just so love what you're doing. And I looking forward to hanging out with you and following what's happening with Beverly Hills Publishing. And it's really been great, Andrea. Thank you so much for having me as a guest.
Oh my goodness. Well, this is just the beginning. Where can the viewer find you, follow along with you, get your amazing book? Tell us how we can stay connected to you.
Sure. My website is kellijaecks.com, but the spelling is KelliJaecks.com. Hopefully that'll be on the show notes. I'm not sure, but kellijaecks.com is where you can find me. I'm on LinkedIn under that name. I'm on Facebook, Kelli Jaecks Verbal Impact. That's the name of my company. You can find my book there. You can find my book on Amazon, and order it right now. So Kelli at kellijaecks.com if you want to shoot me a message. I do, Andrea, also do every week. I send out a self-care tip to my audience. So if anyone wants to sign up for those, you also can do that at kellijaecks.com. And then I will send you a self-care tip every single week. I'd love to stay connected with the audience here today.
Amazing. Well, I am definitely going to be following you. I love your optimism, your breath of fresh air, and also that you're grounded in science and logic and health. So fantastic. Thank you for all you are doing to shine your star power, raise the vibration of the planet. It's been so wonderful having you today, Kelli.
Thank you, Andrea. It's been great. I've loved every minute.
Yay. Well, this is just the beginning. Thank you for watching another incredible episode of Star Power TV. I'm your host, Andréa Albright. And remember, your power is your star power. It's inside of you. It's the true, authentic expression of who you are. Thank you for sharing your gifts with the world. I'll see you next time. Bye.